Today on Specialty Crop Corner, we're talking fresh strawberries at Thanksgiving. Stay tuned. Welcome everybody to Specialty Crop Corner. Brad Bergefurd, Duane Rigsby here. Brad, we're talking strawberries at Thanksgiving or even later. How are we getting strawberries that late a season?
Yeah, correct, Duane. And even though it's single digits outside and ice storm on the way, that is a new research project that we are conducting here at the South Centers to try to extend the availability and the harvest season of strawberries. And we'd like to go between Thanksgiving and Christmas, but we're thinking we can even stretch that even further.
Can even go longer than Christmas?
That's what we're thinking.
So are you saying that a farmer could sell a product year-round?
That's the almighty goal.
Wow, that is amazing.
Yep.
So how, I mean, obviously we're involved in some kind of a building structure to keep this. So how do we start this? How does this start?
Actually, it starts with some of our original research we started 20 years ago called plasticulture, where we've been able to double the in-field season of strawberry harvest just by adopting plasticulture that we researched here. And we now have lots of farmers throughout Ohio and the nation that are growing in that method. But we decided, working with Dr. Cherry Kubota, who's a professor up on campus, she has done a lot of greenhouse strawberry work, and I've done the field strawberry work, so we're marrying the two systems to see if we can actually come up with a production system to stretch the field season a little further, but not go quite 100% greenhouse, something called a high tunnel.
Okay.
High tunnels have been adopted by a lot of farmers in our region. We were one of the first ones to build a high tunnel. Wayne Lewis, our farm manager here, built a high tunnel back in '95, one of the first ones before it was even called a high tunnel. So we've taken that research that we've proven works. The growers have adopted it. Now we're trying to come up with production methods that they could increase their harvest season and their market season and their money that they make from their farm a little bit longer.
Well, that sounds very interesting. So you've got some information here, so let's go over this real quick.
Yeah, I'll share a little bit of information here on this new project. Like I said, this is Dr. Cherry Kubota and Mark Krugel. They're both horticulture and crop science faculty on campus, and they've perfected the greenhouse strawberry production system. And as you know, we here at South Centers have perfected the plasticulture strawberry system in the field. So that was Cherry and I's idea. How could we merge the two systems and come up with another way that farmers can adopt to stretch their season? So everything we do at Ohio State, when we come up with these new alternatives for our farmers and we want to research them, we have to have money. There's just not a lot of money out there. So me and her applied for a USDA Specialty Crop Block Grant that is through the Ohio Department of Agriculture, and that's what these are. These are federal funds, but they're used to give us some preliminary information and data that we can then take further if we can prove the concept works. So lo and behold, me and her applied for this Specialty Crop Block Grant, and we received it. And so we actually did two spots where we conducted the research and education. She further looked at the greenhouse strawberry and the plant production aspects of this system at the Columbus campus in her greenhouses. And then we went and took an existing high tunnel. A high tunnel is no more than a field covered with a piece of plastic. There's no extra heat, there's no extra light. That's the difference between a high tunnel and a greenhouse. So then we took an existing high tunnel that we had here and took her preliminary information that she knows from greenhouse production and put it into our high tunnel. And so our goal then of this is to have strawberry production in that time of the year that we do not and cannot harvest in the field.
So when you say high tunnel, how is this thing 12 feet tall? Is this 4 feet tall? Give me a little bit of a measurement when you say high tunnel.
Yeah, most high tunnels they're called high tunnels because you can stand in them.
Yeah.
So, but these majority of our high tunnels are 12 to 15 feet tall at the peak. So you can get tractors in them, you can get people in them. There are 4 foot tall tunnels, but those are low tunnels, and we have researched those. So that's another story in itself. But this preliminary data was used to get another grant that I am a co-PI on with Purdue, where we're going to be marrying those two systems, the low tunnels with the high tunnels. But stay tuned for that. That starts this year.
So that one's coming.
Yes, that's coming.
Good. So with the marriage between the two, so normally outside we're in the ground.
Correct.
In the greenhouse, they're usually on tables or something like that. So how are we marrying them together inside that tunnel? Yeah,
we got a new gutter system, it's called. We've been researching a lot of different substrate base. That means not soil, but it's soil that's made out of compost or different types of organic matter, rice hulls for the drainage, different ingredients, different recipes, and we actually utilized the recipe that Dr. Kubota had perfected in her greenhouse strawberry work. So that's what we're utilizing in a new gutter system called a tabletop gutter system that I like it because you don't have to bend over to pick the strawberries. Having them right up on top of that tabletop, you don't have to bend over, which is the stoop labor is one of the biggest detriments to strawberry production, is getting people to bend over and have to pick. So this tabletop system, we got some information on it from Dr. Kubota. It was pretty pricey. So working with our farm crew here, Tom Harker, who's our research assistant, Wayne Lewis, we put our farmer engineering hats on and came up with a tabletop production system that consists of concrete blocks. We didn't even have to build the fancy support brackets and all that. That is very costly, and we actually came up with an easier way to do it, which is what we want to do for our farmers. But we'll show some pictures here of this Soilless, and it's been adopted in other countries. That's what we like. It's not been adopted in the U.S., but it's been used in Australia and Belgium and Japan and Korea, the Netherlands. A lot of other countries have, but we are the first to be looking at it here in the U.S., and it seems to work. They are doing some research on it in Ontario, up in Canada, as well as California, but again, they're in the same research phase that we are, trying to learn and see if this can be adopted for our farmers. But that big thing, by one, having the tabletop, it reduces our amount of labor we need to get that crop harvested, and two, going with the soilless substrate mix for your soil. It is free of disease-borne pathogens. A lot of our soils that we grow our strawberries in, our native soils, have Phytophthora and some Rhizoctonia and Fusarium soil-borne pathogens. Utilizing a substrate base in this gutter system prevents us from having to really worry about any of those root soil-borne diseases, because it's not real soil. It's a substrate that does not have those contaminants in it. So
I want to go back to just 1 second there. We're talking. You keep saying tabletop, and I'm thinking a wide table. And then you say gutter. So is a gutter the size of the table?
Yeah, we got some pictures.
So we've got something to show us there?
There's where we actually were setting it up in our high tunnel, Tom Harker and our students and Wayne Lewis. The tabletop is, in this case, just the concrete blocks, because we did not need the full-blown purchased tabletop that the company wanted to sell us. So Tom and Wayne came up with the concrete blocks to use as our table, and then, as you can see from this picture, it does look like a gutter you'd have on a house or a barn, and then that is what we use for the drainage. So this is all irrigated with micro-irrigation. So we have to irrigate this many times a day throughout the growing season. And then the excess water is drained through that soilless substrate I was talking about, goes down into the gutter, into the lines at the end. So the gutters are on a slight slope, so all the runoff goes down into a collection system. And in our case, we're actually monitoring how much runoff we get through daily data collections. So, because we're trying to see how much utilization that plant is using at different stages of its growth. But a farmer would actually utilize that runoff. It would go into a collection tank, and they would recycle it and irrigate with it again, because it is fertilizer water. It's mixed with a water-soluble fertilizer, so there is still some nutrients left in there. And that's what when we're doing the collections at the end, we're monitoring how much nutrient is left in that runoff, and there is a sizable amount left. So farmers then can reutilize that, and it's a closed-loop system, very sustainable, very regenerative for an agriculture operation, and we think it has some merit.
Interesting. So I see holes in the bags, Brad. That's where the plant goes, correct?
Yes.
Now, how we say year-round, so is one plant continuously in there year-round, or do we have to replant every so often to make this year-round project?
That's a great question. It's one of the objectives of this research trial. So the bags actually are filled with that substrate, that recipe that we want, that help with the best organic matter, the best drainage, the best nutrient holding capacity, and it's a closed bag, and then there's those holes that are spaced according to the plant spacing that is best for the crop that we're raising. So in this case, they're already pre-punched for the strawberry plants, and then that's set up on top of that with see the tubes coming down?
Yeah, the white
Those
tubes
are the emitters. And so, well, maybe we have another picture here we could show, but once those plants then are planted in those holes, the emitters are inserted right next to the plant, and that's how we irrigate those plants.
So your water comes out of the white tubes that are hanging there, and then goes down into that bottom of that gutter.
Yeah, the bag that has a substrate actually have drainage holes in the bottom.
In the bottom.
Yep.
Okay.
So that's how the
water gets out of the bag.
Gets out, goes into the gutter, goes into the collection system, then can be recycled for a farmer. This is where the company that we're working with is called Meteor Growing Systems, and this is just a picture of one of theirs in one of their research houses. But they've been very good partners and collaborators on this research, and couldn't do it without our industry partners. So as you can see here, this is actually being held up in midair with no tabletop.
I was going to say, I don't see anything underneath
It's
it.
just chained with a cable up to the top of the purlins at the top of the greenhouse. You'd have to have a pretty sturdy greenhouse.
You would.
But that eliminates the need for any of that tabletop system below. So then they can actually put more plants in a greenhouse by supporting it from the ceiling of the greenhouse. Yes.
Interesting.
But there's just another look at that gutter, that channel, so you can see it has the channels cut in the bottom of that gutter, again, to help facilitate that drainage of that nutrient solution runoff. The goal is, and that's why we collect that runoff on a daily basis, the goal is to monitor that plant growth and that plant uptake of nutrients so well that we don't have much runoff. So that is why we are collecting the runoff and monitoring that in relation to temperature, sunlight, as well as plant stage of development. And then hopefully we can come up with a management program by the time we're done with this research that we can hand off to a farmer to give them some information to set up their own optimized nutrient feeding program, because the almighty goal is you don't want a lot of runoff. You just want to be providing enough nutrient solution that the plant at that certain stage of growth is uptaking just enough that we're not having a big flush of runoff there.
So basically, the more runoff, the more money we're losing.
Money losing, less efficient, because once you mix that fertilizer with the water, the half-life of that fertilizer, when it's mixed with water, starts to dissipate. So you just want to have just enough going through, so we don't have that information. That's one reason Dr. Kubota and Mark and me and Tom Harker have decided to do this, to get that. Yep, and we're pretty close. We have 1 year under our belt, so getting back to your original question, do we have to replant? We're hoping not. These are, and we're still playing with our planting date. The first year we did this research, we were off by a month. This year, we were off, but not not that much off. So we planted these we've been looking at June planting dates, July planting dates, August planting dates, and we think by timing that planting date and getting the plants available to plant, that's been our bigger hurdle, and we'll talk about that some other time. But once we get those planted in June, we can actually fruit them for a fall, Christmas or Thanksgiving to Christmas crop. Then because of the low light levels, this is not a greenhouse that has a supplemental lighting. It's just relying on Mother Nature to give us our passive lighting. They do go dormant, because just like any fruiting vegetable or fruiting plant, they will shut down production when the light levels decrease after we get through that winter solstice time. But now, here as we're approaching February, the light levels have increased. The plants have been dormant. They've been covered over with an insulated blanket to keep them from freezing, because the greenhouse is not heated. But we've been sneaking a peek on nice warm days, getting them a little drink of water if they need them. So we will be bringing these plants back up here right around Valentine's Day to the end of February, depending on the weather. And then we will start rehydrating the bags, refertilizing the plants, and get another crop then here within April to May, depending on the sunlight and the weather.
So we'll get another crop well before the normal outside planting.
Yes, correct. So not only have we doubled the harvest season with our field production by this method, we now have almost doubled that. So stay tuned. We'll see what happens here.
That sounds like some cash for some farmers.
It really does. I was just having a discussion with a strawberry farmer this morning, and he adopted some of our previous technologies. And yes, strawberry production of all the specialty crops we've researched has the most potential to bring in the highest dollar return. And with a system like this, we're talking per square foot, not per acre. So there's a lot of potential here as we fine-tune this production system.
Now, I'll tell you that those strawberries that are underneath there, they sure taste different too.
Oh, they do. They do.
So,
sometimes better, sometimes worse.
Well, yeah. I think depending on the variety that you got out there.
We did notice, and this is just a picture of us planting, so we have to use those plug plants like we were talking about. Getting the plants at the right time of the year is the issue, because we're way off on any production system out there. So we have to come up with a way to make sure we guarantee the plants in the middle of summer when we want them. But what we have noticed, and Tom Harker again manages this trial on a day-to-day basis, and he has been monitoring the soluble solid contents, which measures the sugar levels in the fruit. He uses a refractometer for that, and we have noticed that the fruit have better and higher soluble solids or sugar levels closer to Thanksgiving, and as we get to Christmas, when the sunlight is really getting less and less, the taste isn't quite there, and we think it's contributing to light, because light makes photosynthesis, which makes sugars, and so that's why the fruit may not be, but it also could be our nutrient program. We could be having too much water, which is leaching out the sugars in the fruit. So that's all how we're fine-tuning this system. We know it works. We got some pretty good yields. We just have a lot of fine-tuning to do on the system now.
So it sounds like really stay tuned for next season.
Yes.
We should have a lot more data and maybe better management practices.
And a few more production practices in here. With this project with Purdue that we will be starting here in, this year, we're going to have this system, a low tunnel system, and the high tunnel system, and some more tricks we're coming up with to make that outdoor production system even better. So yes, stay tuned.
So 3 different systems.
Yes.
Interesting. So, Brad, we've just got maybe 5 or so minutes left. What is the best way for somebody to get a hold of this if they wanted to do this as a project? Do they contact you? Do they contact this vendor, or do they just try to guess it on our own? How do we proceed here? What's our steps?
Well, with this new project and this new grant-funded projects that we have with Purdue, we have an on-farm aspect to this. So we are looking for on-farm cooperators.
Okay.
So if somebody's interested in testing this, get a hold of me. We might be able to get you a section of this system for your own tunnel or your own fields. The company we showed earlier as of now, they've tabled this tabletop system because there's not enough data that they haven't been adopting it throughout the world quick enough. So it is hard to get. Yeah. So this system will probably have to come up with the pieces and the parts to make a system for a grower. So if a grower's interested in looking at this, yes, they can get a hold of me. I think I have some, there's some more pictures of us planting the plants. But I think I have our contact information right there. Yeah. So I can actually, if a grower's interested in looking at it, we can actually set them up and come up with we can build a system for them with this new project. We're actually working with a larger strawberry grower in Purdue who's an on-farm cooperator, but we're looking for others that may want to test this on their own farms as well. So there's where Dr. Kubota and my information is. And again, if you want to know more of the greenhouse production of strawberries, that's where Dr. Kubota come in. She's put her entire career so far with controlled environment agriculture and strawberry greenhouse production, where if you want to know from the field, that's where I come in. And if you want to know a little bit of both of us can help you out.
Absolutely. Now, Brad, are we going to have some, I know we've had field days in the past on other crops and strawberries. Will we be having field days and things like that we're going to discuss this project?
Yes, we actually have had 2 field days already where we've brought folks in, and believe it or not, we had farmers from Florida come and participate in our last spring's field day. From Florida, and the Florida growers are really looking heavily to adopt this down in Florida. Not as a greenhouse or a tunnel production system, but outside in Florida where they don't get cold. So that was we're getting interest from out-of-state growers was very interesting. But go to our southcenters.osu.edu, click on specialty crops or our horticulture session. If you haven't subscribed to our email list, go ahead and subscribe to that, and that's how we notify folks of field days, workshops. Actually, a year ago, I think now, or here in February, we held a big all-day online conference and workshop just talking about this production system. But yes, we will have a series of these with this new Purdue, Ohio State project coming up, and that'll last 3 years. We'll have different workshops and field days and so forth to showcase this system.
Just this system. But we've got other things going on here in the horticulture world besides strawberries, and I know just for a few things, we're really into little hop production as well.
Yep, that continues.
We're just going to hit a few promos here real quick. I know we got some hops things coming up.
It's coming up here in February. I'm drawing a blank on the exact dates right now, but we do have that on our horticulture listserv. It's on our website, and the Ohio Hop Growers Guild has taken over the main management of that conference. So if you do want to know more of the registration details of this upcoming conference here in February, go to ohgg.org. And we we started the conference, but we've spun that off to the Hop Growers Guild, which is a cooperative-like organization that we helped to form.
Sounds great. Well, Brad, we're going to talk about many things as this series continues, not only about this strawberry project that we've got here, but other things that we have out in the field, such like hops, and we'll highlight, we've got tomatoes projects out there. What other things we may have in the future, Brad? What are the things that might be even out there that we haven't even started yet?
Well, stretching the horticulture arena a little bit, we have planted out here a field pennycress trial, and some of you farmers may say, why are you planting field pennycress? Because pennycress is a weed. Well, we're working with Dr. Alex Lindsay up on campus to look at field pennycress as an oil-producing crop, maybe as an alternative for grain farmers. So we're pushing the limits there on horticulture, but it is a specialty crop we're looking at. We have some other possible projects looking at dandelion to produce latex, because if you ever took a dandelion off and you seen the white stuff come out, that's actually latex coming out of there. It's rubber. So that may be a project coming down if we get the funding. But lots of interesting things we're researching and maybe coming into new projects here.
One last thing we'll hit is a auction. Let's hit an auction real quick. We've started, well, not we, you helped start this produce auction, what now, many years ago, really.
Yeah, just real quickly, we can talk about that.
Yeah,
that industry is really growing. When I started with Extension 30 years ago, that was my main project up in Geauga County, helped to form the very first produce auction. Today we have 14, and we have a new one just going to happen just down the road here in Beaver, Ohio, working with that group of Amish farmers to build and operate the 15th auction in the state. So we do have several produce auction marketing opportunities, because along with these production practices, you got to have marketing. So produce auctions is one way you can market, but we can talk about that in a future program.
That sounds excellent. So, well, Brad, any last words on this strawberry thing that we talked about?
Again, just like with any of our new projects, maybe look at our data, then do your own on-farm experience and research before you invest a lot of money into the farm on a new project.
It can always, hurt the pocketbook quickly.
Yes, it could.
Yes. All righty. So for Brad, Duane here, we will see everyone next month on Specialty Crop Corner.